When I was first studying Pilates, we're all sort of confronted with this idea of how to teach, how to communicate this idea of lifting your head off the ground when you're on your back. I like to think of it instead of instead of a head lift, which I think can sort of localize us in this neck musculature of what would ultimately be a platysma, scalenes, sternocleidomastoids, these big muscles that when you turn your head, these ones right here. Um, I think it can kind of localize a grip in this area as opposed to feeling the head kind of cantilevered off the ground as a byproduct of what I like to think of as that third bandha, that Jalandhara bandha, just a little tuck of the chin into the throat, and then a curling of the sternum to pubic bone. That feels like a much freer experience. Both lift the head off the ground. One just, I think, ultimately in a much more integrative, comprehensive, less grippy way. So one way that I like to proof this unweighting of the head is from the opposite direction, from that cross-legged seat, this cross-legged archetypal posture of work and repose. So this will later become our preparation for the first exercise in Pilates mat, the modified rollback, which is really the foundation of the entire method. It preps our teaser shape, all of it. So what I like to do first here is just soft chin, soft chest. I'm in my easy cross-legged seat. I take an inhale with a soft chin. I lift my chest and exhale. I let the air out. I curl the sternum to pubic bone. My weight falls on my forearms, just above my knees. So I'm sort of in my easy little ball on my legs. Then I tuck my tail under while I keep that sternum curled. As I start to put weight into my glutes, into my butt, I try to soften the butt, scoop in pelvic floor instead. You'll probably feel a bit of a hip flexor stretch, little psoas stretch here, as it allows you then to easily unweight the legs and put the feet what will be hip width apart. We then can continue this sequence by falling forward, curling that sternum down to pubic bone as we fall forward, a nice easy hug of the legs. And then we'll tuck our tail under again, soft butt, pelvic floor scoops in. As we're curling that sternum to pubic bone, just shifting our weight back. And then we'll continue. The hands can come under the legs after they've been gliding up to the knees. We just pull the arms to the knees by shifting our weight back in our seat. Hands can come under now, and we'll just continue to shift that weight back, maintaining the curl of our sternum to pubic bone. I like to add a little Judith Aston feathering, where I just give a little shift left, right to aid this process of coming down incrementally, softly with control, and I'll come down until I can feel my weight center pushing into that tips of the shoulder blades line, that sort of respiratory diaphragm band circumference of my midsection of my thorax. And here, I can then have my arms at the high diagonal in a hoop, so bent elbows, just swinging left and right across that tips of shoulder blades circumference of my rib cage. And now my head feels very light to do some more strength-based rolling of rolling across the floor with my head unweighted. It's a much deeper experience of conditioning for my abdominals, for my core, and also it becomes the foundation of what is our 100 in Pilates, our ab 5, both all of them really. Anytime you have to lift your head up off the ground for single leg stretch, double leg stretch, single straight leg, double straight leg, and the crisscross. So this is a really useful tool to understand that the head is not something we lift off the ground. I think that language is confusing somatically. It's confusing in terms of how we interpret that in our own bodies, our own exertion in our own bodies. We instead like to think, I like to think that by giving a little tuck of my chin into my throat to lengthen that occiput, that back of neck, I take an inhale here and exhale. I pull my sternum to pubic bone. I'm then free to move with my head unweighted, cantilevered up and off. This is important language, I think, even though, it could be construed as splitting hairs. I think it's really important because your head weighs on average, I think, something like 14 pounds. And so it's important that we make sure that in tensegrity, as much of the deep postural musculature is comprehensively involved in that lifting of the head, and that it not just be localized in the neck. So I hope that this helps your process in unweighting your head and applying this through later into any integrative movement practices, whether they be Pilates, gyrotonic, or just your daily living and sit-ups.